Welcome to the Hire Her podcast by Talent Collective, presenting conversations with inspiring women in talent. And get ready, ladies, because this is the last time you're going to hear a man's voice on this show.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's episode of Hire Her. We are a podcast put on by Talent Collective, and myself and Natalie here are the co-founders of Talent Collective, and thanks for being here today with us. So we are really excited to have a guest here today with us. Her name is Sylvanna Berkowitz, and she has been in the recruiting field for over 9 years. I'm originally from the Philippines, so always love to meet other people from the Philippines. My kids are half Filipino, so we had to connect over that. And really, really excited to hear all about Sylvanna's recruiting journey today. She actually works for Recurrent Energy, which was an old client of mine. So that was also a little fun fact we got to connect on. So Sylvanna, we want to pass it to you. Why don't you tell us all about you, your recruiting journey, and just what you're doing today at Recurrent?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that introduction, Krista. A little bit about my recruiting journey. I would say my recruiting journey is very similar to, I would say 99% of the recruiters out there. I didn't know what I wanted to do, and recruiting actually just fell on my lap. I was in retail for 9 years, started working since I was 16, and went to school, dropped out, and my parents were super happy about that. So didn't know what I wanted to do. So just started, putting my resume out there, got a lot of rejections, and I sucked at interviews, first of all. But finally, I got an entry-level position for a junior recruiter for a startup tech company. It was just a team of 4, and that's where my journey started. So from there, I gained about a year, 9 months worth of recruitment experience. That was in hospitality. So not only did I work Monday through Friday, I worked weekends as well. Because it was a, event type of, staffing agency. If someone called off, guess who filled that position? Me. So that was super fun. But it taught me a lot of grit, taught me, I worked with a really great team. Those were people I'm still in touch with, on Facebook. Like I see them getting married and kids and stuff. So, we developed a really close bond. I would say trauma bonding is what many would call it. So that's a little bit about my journey, and so forth. Joined an oil and gas staffing agency afterwards, was there for 5 years, started out as a recruitment consultant, moved my way up to like a team lead. And then from there, I was exhausted with the agency type of setting. So I thought, hey, let's try the corporate side, which is some of the stories of, recruiters' journey, right? So that is where I'm at now. I'm at Recurrent Energy as a corporate recruiter. I started in April, so it's still a fresh new role for me, but so far so good. I'm just really excited. And so that's been my journey so far.
Awesome. Well, a couple other fun facts. Sylvanna puts out a lot of really great content on her LinkedIn, so everyone will have to follow her. Definitely becoming kind of an influencer of your own, which is fun. And you're in Texas, right? Remind me which area?
Houston. I'm in Houston, Texas.
Okay, well, that's what I wanted. Yes. How did you know? Oil and gas. Oil and gas. Okay. Yeah.
Well, yes.
Natalie used to live there, and we are launching a new Talent Collective community there. So you're going to have to join our kickoff. When is that?
That is going to be February 11th.
So mark your calendar.
Coming soon.
Yay.
That's exciting. I'll be there. Trust me.
Awesome. Well, thanks for that rundown. It's been really great to see your journey. I think Natalie and I can probably resonate with some of the things you were talking about. We also
trauma bonds.
Yes, trauma bonds. We had that that original team that we worked with, just like I mean, in the weeds, like all the craziness. We weren't event staffing people, but we staffed plenty of events and had the calls early morning, late night, had to be on site at some of them. So we remember all those fun stories as well.
Back when like we'd have to take calls, from people calling out at like 5 a.m.
Oh, yes.
Like, oh my God, it's so early. Now we wake up at 5 a.m.
Yes.
naturally.
Yeah, right. And I'd like to add with staffing and those type of, positions that we recruit for, you have to pass a drug test. And so there's a lot of, situation where, it's not so fun. And a lot of candidates are very, transparent about that. And I'm like, oh, okay, can you pass a drug test? Okay.
Right.
Yes, okay.
Yeah, and hopefully with your own sample, right? That's the goal.
Yeah.
Well, awesome. Well, I'd love to get into a few questions for you. So, throughout your recruiting journey these last 9 years, who is somebody that you can think of that really helped elevate you in your recruiting career? We'd love to hear any stories you have.
Leading a growing business, it's like building a plane while flying it. Team building, decision-making, and scaling all at once. At CPO Playbook, we get it. That's why our podcast, ranked in the top 10% worldwide, tackles the toughest leadership challenges with insights to help you lead smarter and grow faster. Tune into the CPO Playbook podcast because leadership doesn't come with a manual, but we're pretty close.
Yes. When I was in oil and gas, it was an oil and gas staffing agency. I have a fantastic coworker. She was what you would consider overqualified. So she was certainly in that spectrum, and she became my work bestie. And so as I, got promoted into a team lead position, I'm not a natural leader. Right. And so I just didn't know what to do in regards to, I don't know, like leading a team. Don't know, like didn't have any sort of like soft skills about that in regards to that. So my, my coworker, and she's a Scottish, woman who, will tell you like straight up, how it is. And so she became a work bestie. And so she has impacted my career just through her mentorship. I would come to her with problems and she would tell me, Sylvanna, this is what you do. Okay. And she would list out X, Y, and Z. And she would give me tips, that I still use nowadays. And it's very, very valuable. And that is to, before you ask a question, figure out if you can answer it yourself. So, that lesson that she taught me, I'm still, I still use that and I'm still in touch with her. We went to, what was it, like rodeo in Texas. So she bought me a hat, which I still have. In addition to that, sometimes we would, go to lunch, right? During work and have a little, margarita here and there. And so she was so fun. I'm still in touch with her. She can outdrink anyone, for sure. Like, 2 shots, she will take 10. Okay.
Yeah, those Scottish people, also English people, you got to watch out. They're unassuming, but they'll get you.
Yeah, but she was so great. And this is one of the things that I, talk about in my content, on LinkedIn is hire those overqualified people. They applied for a reason. And not only that, they can bring so much value to the team in your organization.
Love that. Oh my gosh. What a great lesson in all of that. I love the way you ended with that because I speak with a lot of women and this is a theme with men too, but, feeling like once you're over the 40s, kind of in that club, you start to get this feeling of, oh man, I'm feeling overqualified for everything. I'm feeling like ageism is really starting to kick in and, I'm not getting these roles because, the company wants someone more junior or, fresh. And I love that perspective and that you're really spreading the word about that because I think that is, they applied for a reason, right? Like they do want that job. And and people, I think one of the things companies say is, oh, well, I'm likely, someone more junior isn't going to leave because they're going to find something higher paid or bigger salary, whereas this overqualified person might. But I feel like it's the reverse, right? Because the younger generation are those like job hoppers, right? Like they are more used to just finding the next best thing, whereas somebody a little bit more senior might actually be, a longer term fit.
Yeah, and I'm so glad you mentioned that. There's a lot of perspective of, junior, entry level people. Let's hire them because they might stick, at a company, longer than, what you would consider an overqualified. But ultimately, people leave for so many different reasons. So your junior, entry level person will gain their 2 years experience at your company and move on to another company
Right.
or competitor.
Right.
Whereas your, overqualified candidate applied for a reason. They probably don't want to manage people anymore. They want to, they just want a relaxed, day-to-day office job Monday through Friday, and they can complete their work in 5 hours or so. So, yeah.
Yes, I'm in the category of I don't want to manage anyone anymore.
No
Yeah.
more. Same category.
Right.
A lot of people in our generation just don't want to anymore.
Yeah.
It was like
Yes.
the sought after thing to do. But then it's like,
For
it's
me,
like
it was
having more kids.
Yeah, for me, it was once I had kids. I was like, I'll let someone else do that.
I love that you guys brought that up because in our life and social media, there's always a push for move up, move up, move up in the corporate ladder. But sometimes some people don't want to do that.
Right.
They have family. They'd rather focus on their family versus climbing the corporate ladder.
Yeah. And you can still be good at your job. They will probably still be very good at their job, and they're not always vying for that next promotion. They just want to do a really good job at their expertise, right?
Exactly.
Well, it sounds like this amazing woman was somewhat of a mentor and maybe helped elevate you in your career early on. I'm actually going to pivot a little bit. This wasn't necessarily on your list of questions, but you sounded so like inspired by this person. Is there anybody on the reverse that you think is thinking the same thing about you, right? Is there someone that you're mentoring, or maybe you don't realize it, but someone that you think you're possibly making a big impact on?
Oh, you've definitely given me a question to certainly think about. For my experience now, as I've started my LinkedIn content journey, growing my followers, I've experienced a lot of, now junior level recruiters or, people wanting to join, like being a recruiter. So I'm getting a lot of messages of someone just asking me, like, hey, how do I get into recruiting? Or can you tell me about, your day to day, like operations as a recruiter? I'm really curious. So in those aspects, and the great thing about that is they found me through LinkedIn. I would have never, spoken to them otherwise. But I'm sending them, group coffee chat, team meetings, so we can discuss, my experience and hopefully give them an understanding, of hopefully, their recruiting journey.
That's amazing. And they'll remember you for that.
Yes.
I mean, how many times like our candidates maybe weren't able to place them, but they became a client, or now they're connecting us with this business. Like, who knows? A connection is always a great connection at some point.
I love that. I'm so glad you mentioned that because, that's what networking is all about. It's all about relationships. It's all about what I can do for you, not the other way around. Because like you mentioned, they'll think about that, 2 years down the road when they're, at a different company and say, hey, I spoke with Sylvanna. She was very nice versus like ghosting me. So yeah, I think that that's very important with networking and building relationships. So I hope that I became a mentor to those people.
What sort of content are you putting out there, and like who would best benefit from following you?
Good question. Honestly, my content is very random. I sometimes post
Fresh.
meme.
Yeah.
I sometimes post meme, like memes, just random, anything that is relatable to the recruiting and job seeking, candidates. Like, also, I'm very random, and I also do lots of like interview tips and how to format your resume in a certain way, what type of templates to use when sending messages to recruiters. And it can be just as simple and silly. Like one time, I posted a silly LinkedIn content, and I wrote, "He said yes," with like the ring emoji, and
Mhm.
I put under that, I put, "He said yes," and he said yes. I that After I asked him if right now is a good time to talk, yay, and that got like that had like 1,500 likes, and just silly things like that. But it's
Yeah,
just a mix of both.
that's very creative. I love it.
Interesting to see what takes off, which posts actually take off,
Mhm,
right?
mhm.
You never know, honestly. Like there are some posts I spent maybe like an hour on, and then a post like that silly one, and that one got more traction than
Right.
the hour I spent on one post.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. Well, let's dive into some trends in recruiting right now. We always like to talk about controversial trends, not just like the mundane, what everyone is
AI and
talking about. Yes,
recruiting.
how AI is going to take everyone's jobs, although that would be controversial. Who knows? But what do you think is a controversial trend right now in recruiting that needs more attention? Like, what should we be talking about and why?
Hey, everybody, I'm Lori Rudiman. What are you doing? Working? Nah, you're listening to a podcast about work, and that barely counts. So while you're at it, check out my show, Punk Rock HR, now on the Work Defined Network. We chat with smart people about work, power, politics, and money. Are we succeeding? Are we fixing work? Probably not. Work still sucks, but tune in for some fun, a little nonsense, and a fresh take on how to fix work once and for all.
Oh, yes. I love the ATS topic. That is my favorite topic, hands down. Simply because when candidates apply to, using an applicant tracking system, they have no idea what is the recruiter's perspective, right? So there's this big misunderstanding of what an ATS system is. So, and I speak about that on my LinkedIn page on what ATS isn't.
Mm,
ATS isn't like an artificial intelligence that will automatically reject you because you have the wrong resume format. You have colors in your resume. That's a no. Or just they're lacking certain keywords in their resume, which is why they're getting rejected, which is absolutely not the case. An applicant tracking system is just a filing cabinet. What sometimes candidates perhaps confuse it is when they get rejected right away after answering knockout questions, like do they
mhm.
have a degree, do they have technical skills in SAP, etc. If they answer no to those, and those are hard requirements from the hiring managers, obviously they'll get rejected immediately.
Mhm. Yeah, definitely. I think it's interesting. I'm working with a new recruiting client right now where like I've never actually used knockout questions in with applications before. And it's super, super effective, but you have to know the right ones to use and you really have to be strategic about it. And I think that also encourages candidates to apply to the jobs that they're actually really qualified for. I think a lot of candidates nowadays are using their own AI to do their job search for them and to auto apply.
Mhm.
So it kind of is this can be one big cyclical issue if candidates are using them to auto apply and mass apply and they're not getting applied to the right jobs, et cetera.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. You hit the nail on the head right there.
Amazing. Well, last question before we wrap up is As a woman in your career, are there any unique challenges that you've faced, and how did you overcome them? We're really big on, bringing vulnerability to our audience, because so many of us women have shared experiences. So anything that you're open to sharing?
Yes, absolutely. So, as a woman in the workplace, it's really important to me for companies to fully support women's, fertility options,
Mm,
right? And, in the workplace, that's not anything that, you would discuss. Like you can talk about your, medical benefits and whatnot, but if you bring up, hey, perhaps should we include an IVF option for our health plans? That's there's hesitation there, right?
Mm.
Because a lot of, the top people are mostly males, and would they support that? So as a woman, I'm experiencing, infertility, issues, and unfortunately, IVF is expensive. It's like 15,000,
Yeah.
right? So my my supervisor, who is a woman, like made me feel super comfortable, discussing that topic with her, and so it's very I felt comfortable, versus if it was a male. So I think in that aspect, as a woman in the workplace, I think offering fertility benefits and fertility options are super important, not just for me as one, but also for the whole organization. The men who have wives, right,
Right.
mhm.
may need infertility coverage as well. So I hope
Point.
that answered your question.
Mhm.
Yeah, one thing I was thinking of too as you were talking, I never thought about it this way, but I think age ties into this conversation too, right? Not
Mhm.
just gender and men running companies, but older men running companies who maybe already have a family, or, they're kind
Mhm.
of past that age of, the reproductive years and having a young family, right? And so maybe that's not as top of mind for them, or it's not
Mhm.
as relevant for them. And so it's a little bit harder for them to get behind it. But if you look at your entire workforce and, the population
Mhm.
of people that are working for you, it probably is very important to
Mhm.
a majority of the people working at your company. So thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, that's a great example. Love
Mhm.
it.
Thanks for asking that. I think fertility coverage should be, talked about way more right now.
Get it on your LinkedIn. Start doing some posts about that. It's a good one.
Yeah.
Influencing. Yes. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. We appreciate you spending time with us, and we look forward to seeing you at our Houston launch. I'll be sure to let you know about it in just a couple of months here.
Mhm.
So enjoy the rest of your week. Thank you for spending time and sharing your story. And for the rest of the audience, appreciate you tuning in. Be sure to like, share, subscribe. We're on all your typical channels, YouTube, etc. And be sure to check out Talent Collective, our community for women in TA. Until next time,
Bye, everyone.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
bye.